Hey friends, welcome back to the UFD Tech channel. It's time for a special weekend edition of Hot News. Hot News. Hot news. The reason we're putting out one on the weekend is just because we had a whole lot that we wanted to talk about that just wasn't going to fit in one segment. So we released one yesterday on Friday. You get one today on Saturday. You're welcome. So let's do that. Let's talk about the hot news after I tell you that today's video is brought to you by UFD Deals, which is our very own website where we allocate all of the deals that we see on tech products from around the internet into one space that you can sort through and search through and find, hey, that graphics card's on sale. Hey, that monitor is on sale. That RAM's on sale. Hey, I got a good system together. That's the whole point of UFD Deals. You can check the link in the video description. Everything's an affiliate, so we get a kickback when you purchase it, and makes you save money, we make money. It all works. Everything just works.
Everything just works.
So my friends, if you're interested at all in saving money, UFD Deals link for that will be in the video description. With that being said, let's jump on into today's hot news, which first up, let's just take a moment to remember that like a year ago was when we were in the peak crypto craze and everybody was going crazy. Ethereum was over $1,000. Bitcoin was nearing 20. It was a good time, but now this little bit of news got me. Ethereum has now fallen below $100 per Ethereum, which is a massive drop from its once great heights. So right now, as I'm recording, it's sitting at around $84 per Ethereum, which, yeah, let's just, in remembrance, let's take a moment of silence. Okay, that's enough. But this leads me into the next segment, which is ASUS promoting some weird crypto thing with their Strix graphics cards. And this is like a recent thing that they're actually putting on their website with the Strix 2070, which is where we've been able to find it on. Obviously, mining right now, if you're doing it for pure cash, is like a dumb idea. You're gonna spend more on electricity than you're actually gonna make back, regardless of whether or not people tell you that, like, oh no, you do it now so that you can get a whole bunch, so then when the profit rises, that's not the point. The point right now is that manufacturers probably don't want to be in on the crypto craze, but ASUS has said, no, 2070s, perfect for mining. So if you go to their website, you'll see that they actually have this thing called Quantum Cloud right on the product page saying profit from GPU power. Quantum Cloud is a simple and secure service that lets you effortlessly earn extra money by putting your idle GPU to work. Through an easy to use app, your computer can help run cloud-based applications, making you money in the process. Earnings are automatically transferred to your WeChat or PayPal account, and your privacy remains intact because no personal data is stored online. Get started making money right now. My friends, ASUS is promoting a crypto mining service. Why? Why? Like, it's clear that there's some sort of partnership going on, but holy crap, this is terrible timing, a bad move. Nobody should be doing this. If you are mining, you shouldn't be mining through a third-party service, at least right now. Why, ASUS? That's all I need to know is why. Why do you have this? Anyways, that's enough for my negativity towards the mining industry right now. Let's move on into the next thing that I can be negative about, which is the InWin chassis that we happen to see at Computex. So this massive behemoth of something that looks like bone particles mixed with like a steel chassis of towerly goodness, I don't even know how to say this, they're actually selling it. Like, I thought it was just a prop piece because it weighs like 45 kilos, which is about 100 pounds for you American people. And why? It's just a giant hunk of CNC metal that looks like a twisted, contorted tree of life. I guess like this is gonna be like one of those like status pieces, because I mean, this would be the case that I would go on Newegg and find the most expensive product in each category and add them all up and see what's the most expensive PC that I could go ballin' with back when I had no money and I was a child. Like, that's the purpose that I see this serving, or just like somebody who wants a giant vase looking thing to store their PC. That works too. No mention of price. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be at least $500 to $600 just based on the sheer dimensions of this massive behemoth. But do you guys like this thing? I'll leave a poll right up there. Do you like the InWin tower? Yes or no? Then quickly, just a little side note, it appears that the RTX 2070 and 2080 mobile versions might be coming out to the consumer at CES is when we're expecting them to be announced. We found some device IDs in certain companies' list of their products. So it looks like we'll be getting a 2070 Max Q and a 2080 Max Q into desktop components. It doesn't look like we're gonna get anything towards the 60 or below lineup as of right now. That might change once CES comes around, but yeah, it's yeah, cool. I don't know. I don't want ray tracing on my laptop. I'm not necessarily all that excited about this. Like, ray tracing doesn't perform that well on desktop, so why would you want it on a laptop? And it's only one, like, I don't know. And these are gonna be expensive. These are gonna be terribly expensive. Oh, dang. Oh, I'm just having the realization of how expensive these things are gonna be. They're gonna be thousands of dollars each. They're not, oh man. Oh, Let's talk about the title piece of the video today, which is AMD taking, or actually just continuing to hold the sales crown against Intel. So this is coming from Mind Factory's sales data. We actually talked about this in a hot news 2 months ago about how AMD is just outselling Intel by over 50%. However, now in November, we finally have the sales data where we can see that Intel really has no footing in the current market. So their sales data show that based on CPUs, 69% went to AMD and 31% went to Intel. Over 16,000 Ryzen CPUs were sold, under 8,000 Intel CPUs were sold, and it just looks like Intel has no place in the market right now. And the reason that this particular 2-to-1 sales gap is so massive is because Intel just launched processors. That's the biggest part about this, is that Intel just gave us new processors, so their sales should pick up. But instead, what we see based on the charts that we have from Mind Factory is that their sales have been slowly decreasing against AMD for the past several months. So if we just go back and look at the sales data through the year, we can see that Intel has kind of tapped out on what they're selling. If we take a look, in January, they had 61% of sales. In February, they also had 61. In March, they had 60. In April, they had 54. In May, they were 51, losing the gap there. June was 55. July was an even tie, 50-50. In August is where it slipped. They had 49. In September, they went down to 35%. In October, they went down to 29%. And in November, they were at 31%. So this is quite considerably a massive, massive difference, because in October alone, AMD sold more than Intel's best month this year. And in November, which is the data that we're quoting right now, they've outpaced Intel by over double their best month this year, bar none, which is crazy because AMD hasn't released any new CPUs. It just means that people are buying them for the holidays, for their families, for themselves, on Black Friday, wherever. They're actually buying the good deal instead of what Intel launched. And what we're seeing is that even though Intel released the Coffee Lake refresh, they're not gaining any sales. There's nothing going on. They are literally falling flat with their current sales setup, and that sucks, especially since they have nothing else on the pipeline. We talked about in a previous hot news this week about how Ryzen 3000 series is going to be an even better value than the current setup, so this is only going to continue to swing in AMD's favor. And Intel has no 10nm chips coming out. There is a rumor floating around that they might release a 10-core CPU if they can manage that, but it's not going to be able to stop the train that is AMD with regards to sales. So this is not looking good for Intel. It looks like they're going to be in for a rough 2019 and maybe even a rough 2020, but it's not all bad news. So there is a report coming out right now from Seeking Alpha stating that Intel's 7nm EUV process is actually right on track. So even though we were supposed to get 10nm chips from Intel all the way back in 2016, we're already 2 years delayed. We're going to be 3 years delayed next year. Even though we're completely delayed on those, the 7nm EUV lithography is actually moving quite ahead. So it looks like Intel might be able to catch up with AMD sometime in 2020 when they actually launch 7nm chips. However, this could also just be a report like we've seen with 10nm, where Intel says it is on track, and then we find out that they're just missing deadline after deadline after deadline. But I'd rather be optimistic here. I do want to see Intel and AMD duke it out fairly evenly on the battlefield. I want to see Intel actually have chips that can compete in value with AMD, because that's where AMD is winning right now in November. The reason they oversold 2-to-1 is because the value is just so much better. And come CES, if the rumors are true, they're not only going to beat them in value, they're going to beat them in performance. And that's something that Intel can't afford to lose right now, is the performance crown, but it looks like it's going to slip from their hands. And I want them to be like surpassing each other for the performance crown. I don't want to see it swing to AMD only because any company that stays at the top too long gets a little big ego. So we don't want that. I don't want that. So sad times, optimistic times, and now let's move on into some uncertain times, which is about Huawei's CFO actually being arrested in China based on some extradition charges to bring her to the US. Apparently, the US doesn't like the fact that Huawei has been violating US sanctions on Iran. So Canada actually arrested the CFO in their jurisdiction, but then it looks like they're gonna process extradition to the US to hold her on trial in US courts, which has not made China happy, especially with the trade war that's currently going on with tariffs and such. The reason I bring this up is not for the political debate, but just rather the technological debate, which Huawei is actually a major cell phone provider, maybe not in the US, but in the rest of the world, and they outsell Apple at this point. So this is a big deal, especially if the CFO is getting arrested. That's rough. So we'll keep you posted on this. We'll see where it goes, if she actually gets extradited to the US or if she gets let free based on pressure from China to the US on this action. Hey, I just found out that the Avengers trailer just dropped. I'm gonna go watch it. If you guys like trailers, you should watch it. If you don't like trailers, you're that kind of person. Moving on, so we have China, actually, speaking of Huawei and China and all of that, they're actually sending a probe to the dark side of the moon, which if they're able to land it there, will be the first one that has successfully landed. The reason that this is difficult is because the moon's one side always faces the Earth, so it's not really easy for us to navigate a ship to the backside because we have no actual reconnaissance there. So what they had to do was launch a satellite to actually give reconnaissance on the backside of the moon to provide telemetry data back to the China base station to communicate to the probe where exactly to land, how to land. So this is cool. This is cool. So China taking the space race back to the moon, which good job. And then in the worst bit of news that I have for you this week, and I feel no reason not to close off on this, is, okay, if you're squeamish, I'm gonna give you a warning. If you are squeamish, do not watch this next part. If you don't like blood, don't look. So what apparently happened was a heart failure patient actually coughed up a blood clot that is shaped like the bronchial patterns in his entire lungs. So this, if you're looking at the image right now, this is something that was not removed from a patient. This is something that the patient expunged. This is something that they coughed up, which looks like in a perfect cast of what happens inside the lungs. This is kind of amazing and super disgusting at the same time. Unfortunately, the patient did die a few days later of the similar disease that was causing the issue, not necessarily of the blood clot itself. So yeah, this is the most outrageous thing that I've seen in quite some time that a human has done. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it ends with a happy story, but wow. I don't know how to end this hot news, so I'm gonna end it. I'm Brett with the UFD Tech Channel. Don't forget to check out UFD Deals if you want to save money on the internet. Like the video if you liked it. Get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content. I'll see your smiling faces again in the next video. Love you too.